Okay, I'm going to call to order the Point Roberts Community Advisory Committee regular meeting for July 27th, 2023 at 7:01 p.m. First is just approval of the agenda. Does anyone mind if I move to next month discussion and update from Anel on the dog park, as well as the update on the environmental constraint public information workshop? Okay, all in favor? Okay, so that'll move to next month just because we have a lot to get through here. Okay, next we have approval of our previous meeting minutes.
That's on your motion.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next was we had correspondence from the Point Roberts Taxpayers Association regarding the WTA, which we will be getting an update again. Would-be Telecom regarding the modification to the grant condition, which we have Would-be Tel here again today. Walk-in housing regarding affordable housing. Brian, you'll give us that update?
Yes.
When we get there, along with the Bellingham Housing Authority, all goes into one.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, first is our first public comment. Does anyone? Yes.
Quick request. The people who are in the room, when they speak, can they identify themselves, since we can't?
First and last name, yes.
Yes, since we can't see them today. Thank you.
I don't have owl.
Thank you. Come sit down, grab an agenda there.
Okay. So we're going to start with the people in the room for our first public comment. Does anyone in the room have anything that they would like to bring up, discuss? Okay, if you can say your first and last name. Okay. Yep.
I'm just going to read this, which I can also hand you a copy of.
Right.
I am Suzanne Rosser, a homeowner, a full-time resident in Point Roberts since February of 2004. Thank you for your attention. My home is located at 1900 Cliff Road. Bordering my property on the east side is an undeveloped property addressed as 1908 Cliff Road, owned by Paul Lotka. Along a long row of mature, healthy, beautiful trees, ranging in heights from 35 feet to more than 65 feet, measured from the base of the tree, bordering our property line. Mr. Lotka claims that all the trees are on his property. He claims he's had a property surveyed some years back. His property size allows him to cut down every tree because the size of his lot, according to Whatcom County Tree Code. These trees are magnificent and healthy, home to many birds, and is definitely a property value for both of us. I can provide photos. In addition, his entire property slopes significantly downhill. He has added fill to make a level area on which he plans to place his travel trailer, where he hopes to reside. Today, there are large domes of fill dirt, piled randomly on the property. There could be a case to be made that there may be a danger to his neighbors directly below the lot if more dirt is added. His property has a magnificent view. The trees are in no way impedes the view. In June of 2023, Mr. Lotka came to my door unannounced to advise me that he was working on his lot and would be topping the trees in question, all the trees. Perhaps he said as much by as much as half. As I understand from the code, is described as the top 25% of a tree, not half. He introduced the man who owns a business who will be doing the work. Needless to say, I was shocked and speechless and unable to respond properly, which did not in any way indicate an affirmation response. 2 weeks later, I contacted him by phone, left a friendly message indicating that I wanted to have to speak with him about the tree and his plans. Nothing more, nothing less. He has not responded to date, hence my presence today. Topping is not healthy for trees, as the first 25% contains nutrients, animals, bugs that feed and keep the entire tree healthy. It should be avoided and only advisable to avoid power lines, air traffic vision, and disease tree ailments. Point Roberts is a paradise of nature. Over the 19+ years since I have lived here, there has been a rash of tree topping, cutting, and removal, permitted and not permitted. One big reason our little slice of heaven is this. One big reason our little slice of heaven is desired is the trees. Whatcom County allowed the Seabright development to go through. They cut the trees that backed up the unprotected, beautiful avenue of tall trees that glorified APA Road at one time. A windstorm came through, as they always do, and wiped out a magnificent canopy of trees that was a beautiful photograph feature of Point Roberts. Now there is nothing. I cherish the photographs that remind me of how it used to be, how the county failed to keep in mind the necessity to place nature first, not money. We will never get that tree canopy back in our lifetimes, if ever. Why is nature not respected in Whatcom County? I fully support the creation of a group of Point Roberts citizens to work on our outdated tree codes before all the trees are gone. The sooner, the better.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. We do have the tree retention ordinance is on the agenda this evening. So we can discuss more on that. I've actually had some communication with Whatcom County regarding the code. So we will go into that later. Does anyone else in the room have anything for our first open comment? Anyone online?
Michael,
Yep.
did you spoke with me. Do you want to say something? Now is the time to make your public comment, if you're going to.
If you can state your first and last name for the record.
Michael Bishop.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate.
Well, it's our public comment section that I spoke to you about, Michael. So, yeah, you got here just in the nick of time.
My concern only is that I'm a Canadian and I own properties here in Point Roberts, for which I'm very grateful. Wonderful place. I'm concerned that as a Canadian, when we pass items on the budget that are of a high value, I have no say in whether they're approved or debated or whatever. It reminds me somewhat of the wonderful Boston Tea Party with King George III, I think it was, where we had a situation of colonists, the inverted commas, who were not represented and were paying taxes. And it strikes me that that's the kind of a place where Canadians are at right now. And my understanding is that we have about 3,000 Canadians who own property. That may be a wrong number. But that's a lot in a property, in a place that only has 4,000 properties. These numbers may, my understanding, may well be wrong. But if that's the case, then that strikes me as being unfair and unfortunate. And I understand that this is not an easy thing to change. But I just wanted to be on the record for the 3,000 Canadians who are being asked to pay sometimes a lot of money in our taxes without having a say, a vote in it. We have a say, of course, at meetings like this, but not a vote. Well,
Nope. Okay.
Okay, does anyone else in the room have anything? Anything none? Oh, you do? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Robert Walker. I live here on Point Roberts. While the telephone is here, I would really like to hear from them how they came up with their broadband map representing that my home has 100 megabit symmetrical internet availability. And if it is available, I'd like to order it. So if anybody there can take my order, that would be terrific. As for our Canadian friends who do not have the ability to vote here, I will point out that Americans who own property in Canada also cannot vote in Canada. And that seems to be how things work on either side of the border.
Okay. Anyone else? I need a new TV. That's why I have to watch this.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hey, does anyone online have anything for the first open session? Okay, seeing none, I am going to move into our old business and start with Whatcom County Transportation Authority presentation, which, where is, did I lose him? There, I'm like, where's Les? There's Les.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was kind of jumbled coming through. I heard Whatcom County.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
I wasn't sure if there was something else on the presentation. So, yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. My name's Les Reardons with the Whatcom Transportation Authority, and appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all about how do we solve providing some sort of service there in Point Roberts. Some of the challenges that come with it, and how do we come up with a solution? Historically, as you all know, there was a taxi kind of service, a contractor service that served up until the COVID pandemic hit and closed down the border. We last year and then again this year looked to reinstitute that and got no bidders to do that. So we just been out for the month of July and closed earlier this week and received no inquiries, no bidders on that. We did receive, however, a interesting proposal from the Point Roberts Taxpayers Association regarding a possibility of a van that WTA would provide and volunteers would operate. So that's all that came in from that. So we'll be following up with the PRTA to explore that possibility with them. The county as well. I think Executive Sidhu came up and addressed the group a few times, as well as they're interested in participating in some sort of solution too. So maybe through working with the PRTA and others, we can work out some solution on that. I had hoped that we would have some commercial operator that would be willing to go back to Point Roberts and reinstitute the service, but unfortunately, nobody did. So that's kind of where we're at this point. I'll be following up with Mr. Robbins and see what we can work out. I don't know how much folks want, and I'm happy to answer questions, obviously. But that's kind of where we're at this point.
I think the issue was that when Seth Paul made the offer, Seth Paul basically was offering the vehicle, but a nonprofit in Point Roberts would have to be responsible for the insurance, the gas, and everything else, which obviously not doable. Where before what we had was the WTA van that was here that we had, because I'm going way before COVID. I'm going way back. I'm old.
Yeah, this goes back to the mid 2000s, I think.
Right, where we had a WTA van that we had a few people who did volunteer. They drove the route, they picked everybody up, took them to their appointments, and it ran twice a week for a while and once a week, depending on, but it had a permanent schedule, but everything was paid for by the WTA. The insurance was paid by the WTA, the gas was paid by the WTA, and the vehicle was a WTA vehicle. It's just there was no staffing cost because the Point Roberts community volunteered to do the driving.
Right.
And I think that's what, when I talked to Mark Robbins, that's what the taxpayers was thinking to reinstitute. Because the offer from St. Paul was, we'll just give you an old vehicle and somebody else figures it out. Well, obviously the community, we don't have that kind of group to cover the insurance and everything else.
Oh, I thought the offer was that all those costs would be covered.
No, that was not his original offer. So if you could find a proposal, I think that's what the Taxpayers Association was looking at. And I think that's what a lot of the community was used to. And we have enough people who would be willing to step up to create a schedule. And then one of the nonprofit groups could maybe help maintain the schedule or work in tandem with Circle of Care. So depending on how much is needed to be done,
Yeah. So one of a couple of those issues that come up that we'll have to look at is obviously the insurance, getting that both in Canada and the United States.
It's just one insurance.
It's just one.
I have vehicles.
Okay, we've been told that would be an issue, not something we can't insurmount, but we were told that if we were using WTA vehicles, we'd have to get a Canadian rider on our insurance. But regardless, it's not a barrier that we can look at, but that's something we have to look at. Another is when we have to check on our ADA requirements to make sure that our Americans with Disabilities Act requirements that are on WTA that aren't necessarily on community vans, and check on that. So there's a number of things we need to check on. I'm not saying those are, and I'm not offering that as that they're barriers that we can't do. They're just barriers we need to look at and work with Mr. Robbins on their proposal, moving that forward. So there are ways to look forward, and this gives us an opportunity to have those discussions.
WTA work with the Circle of Care, seeing that their van is WTA compliant, and the issue with the Circle of Care, not so much as volunteers, but it's the added in, it's the insurance, the gas, and everything. It's the expenses.
Yeah.
But we already have a vehicle here on the point that meets all of the standards necessary.
Okay, and that's
owned, but right, more.
It's
I'm sorry, I got a lot of feedback there. That's owned by who?
Liz, this is Nell Norman. I'm the executive director for Circle of Care.
Circle of Care, okay.
And I happen to be the delegate from taxpayers.
Okay.
So Circle of Care has a 12-passenger wheelchair accessible bus. By making this statement, I am not at all implying that our board would agree to enter into some sort of agreement, but that vehicle does exist. And I think if WTA could think outside the box, I imagine that Circle of Care could think outside the box, and we might be able to work something out.
Yeah, I would love to. Would I talk with you, or who should I
Well, our board of trustees meets on Monday evening. I can certainly see if we can put you on the agenda for Monday night, this coming
Okay.
Monday, if you're available.
Okay.
And, yeah, I think that would be and one thing that I would say is that our insurance has never made an issue of whether we are passing through Canada or not. Now, and that's
Okay.
because we're not making any stops in Canada.
Right.
We're going
Okay.
directly across. But should we drive into Canada and have an accident, then our insurance would definitely cover that. Now, WTA being a public agency might have some other requirements, but our insurance has been happy to cover us in Canada.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we have our Washington State Transit Insurance Program that is in the midst of looking at what that would be, what that
Right.
would.
Could I give you our email address?
Yeah, that would be great. And I could email you tomorrow. Whoop,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was talking over you. I apologize.
It's PR Circle of Care.
PR, and then all written out, Circle of Care
Right, at gmail.com.
at gmail.com. Okay, I will send you an email after, or to that email address after this to establish contact, and maybe we can chat tomorrow.
Thanks, Les.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for suggesting that. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Great.
Well, thank you for the update, Les, and I'm glad we see Miranda here.
She's fantastic. We're couldn't be happier to have her as part of the team.
Mhm.
She's
But yeah, because any work groups that we need to do and work with Miranda and make
Yeah.
sure about the Circle of Care meeting and stuff. And I think we can all put our brains together and come up with a solution, thinking outside of the box. And
yeah. This is I'm optimistic after that suggestion. I think we can get there.
perfect. Thank you so much, Les.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey. Sorry, that makes me happy. So next would be telecom presentation. I think I've got John. You with me, John?
All right. Hi, I'm muted. Hi, I'm John Gavard. I'm with Whitby Telecom. I'm substituting for Martha Ford, who is on vacation. And I've got a couple of things to bring out. I think the agenda item was the community center in Point Roberts, are part of our Community Connect grant. I think that was the agenda item. So to cover that is we are working with RUS, which is the grant provider, and to see what flexibilities we have. In addition to that, we applied for another Community Connect grant for Point Roberts, and to cover greater area, different area, but greater. And the initial reaction is we may need to have 2 community centers. My hope is that we could just have one and have one in the best location for Point Roberts. Does any questions on that?
Oh, there are going to be lots of questions, I imagine. Anybody in?
When you're talking about, so you're talking about the mobile units?
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the mobile unit?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know part of the discussion was she was working with the grant to find out if it had to be, in certain locations, or if it was flexible, so that she could get community input to where the community would like to put it. And is that why you're saying we might have to have 2?
Yes.
Well, that would be a great problem to have, I think.
It would be.
Okay.
It would be a fantastic problem to have.
I think John, Nell Norman, I'm with the taxpayers. I think there are lots of different thoughts and for myself, and I think taxpayers, it would be a question of what does it look like and where would it go, and how much parking it would take, and so forth. So I think we would need that kind of information from you eventually in order for the community to weigh in on location.
And it doesn't, the community center does not need to be mobile.
Okay.
That's it. It gives us the greatest amount of flexibility, but it's not a requirement to be mobile.
And when you say the community center, you're talking about this basically mobile hotspot connection.
Yes, it would be a trailer type hotspot where people can come in and use computers.
Okay, so on that note, seems that one of the places listed was Lighthouse Park, and the work along Marine Drive is Feast. Do we have an estimated time where DAPA is going to release you to return to work on Marine Drive?
No, we do not have a date. We are working with the Lummi Nation. We're working with the state and with RUS.
So a DAPA permit has not been issued yet. I'm wondering at what point are you in your 30-day comment period through? Sorry, I pull permits through the state for archaeological. So I know once you file for your permit with the state and you're working with an archaeologist, the nations have 30 days to respond from the time that DAPA puts that out to the nations. I'm wondering at what point are we in that process?
I don't know exactly. I do know we are attempting to meet in the next couple of weeks to find out, what's the process. Tomorrow we hope to hire another consultant to help us go through the process, and it's somewhat complicated, and we're trying to be sensitive to the Lummi Nation needs along with the Washington State.
Okay, so we don't have an archaeologist yet that has done a review to.
We had a review done by archaeologists.
Okay, so we're just waiting to see if the nation and the state is going to tell you whether or not it's going to have to be monitored, which I'm assuming it is.
Okay, yeah, that I don't know.
Okay. Just because I know how long archaeological throws projects off their timelines.
Okay.
So you said the application for the second grant, another grant, is that for a particular area?
It is. I did not bring a map of the proposed area.
Okay.
But we also have an existing application for a Reconnect 4 grant that we're waiting on a decision. So those two areas, I can send what those two maps look like.
If you could email those to me, then I can go ahead and post them. Now I'm sure you're going to get the flood of questions. You ready, John?
Oh, hey, could I make one more comment? We're really excited at Would-Be Tell. You probably read in the paper that we won an NTIA middle mile grant. And the middle mile grant will go from central Whidbey all the way up to Point Roberts. It will have intermediate stops around the naval base on North Whidbey. It'll go up to the Orcas Island, up to Birch Bay. And the plan is to serve the Lummi Nation with that area. And then from there, we're going to Point Roberts. The advantage of why this is exciting, as I think everybody knows, all our internet traffic goes through Canada. And once we have this installed, all the internet traffic on Whidbey will going through the US. In addition to that, there is significant cost savings. Working with Bell Canada is not inexpensive. So that's good news from a cost standpoint. And we will then have our goal is to have 100% fiber underground system for Point Roberts. Underground submarine.
Multi-year project though, correct? Like
I'm sorry?
That's a multi-year project, like 5
It
years.
is, yes.
So, you had a question?
I do, so Whidbey PUD also is applying for grants. And the map that was submitted to the FCC, broadband map by Whidbey, represented that my house already has 100 megabit symmetrical service. So therefore, it was not necessary for Whidbey PUD to receive the grant funding to serve my house. I'd like to order that service. When can it be installed?
I don't know exactly where you live.
385.
And
Anytime. I'd love to subscribe.
it's really difficult for me to hear them.
Yeah, just so you know, when the questions come from the audience, we can't hear. You might need to repeat them.
Okay. So he's saying George Road in Point Roberts.
Okay.
On the map states that it has
100 megabits.
the 100 megabit service, but yet it's actually not available. But he'd love to have it.
Understood. Okay.
I love it. Right now, yes.
Okay.
And if not, they tell the FCC it was available, and that isn't true.
I might have to have people come up to the computer so that so they can hear.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
No, I did not.
Do you want to approach the table here, please, Bobby?
Sorry, my owl.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Yes. We're not quite mic'd up in the room.
Yeah, my owl broke.
So hi, I'm Robert. When the Whatcom County PUD made their application for grant funding to provide broadband on Point Roberts, they relied on the map that would be submitted representing where 100 megabit service was available. And my house is on the map, and you guys have represented that 100 megabit symmetrical service is already available where I live. So therefore, Whatcom County PUD shouldn't be able to get a grant to provide that service. So I'd like to order the service that you're representing to the FCC is available. When can you come by and get it installed? I work remote. I need fast internet. So you know, if it's not a service you're normally advertising, that's fine. But I would like to subscribe.
Okay. If you could do me a favor, just shoot me an email or and I'll check into it for you.
Sure, I'll do that. I assume that the Community Advisory Committee has your email address?
I have it.
Oh, you do? Okay, and you got mine too, right? Awesome, thanks.
Anyone else have any questions regarding Whidbey Telecom? Okay, seeing none, the only thing I'm going to ask you, John, is before we decide to, or Whidbey decides to place any of the community trailers,
Okay.
that we have a discussion with the community to discuss in depth of where the community would like to see it.
Okay.
I did have a bunch of talks with people who didn't like the idea of it going in the parking lot of Lighthouse Park, but then came and said, well, if we could stick it on the boardwalk kind of and make it part of the boardwalk, and, put some whales on it and make it more of an interactive, and so it actually looked like part of the park, that they could be more into something like that, but they don't want it sitting in the parking lot of Lighthouse Park, right? So
Okay.
I think that type of input from the community is important to find out before we decide to cite anything anywhere.
Any chance, Alice, that we could get consensus from your group?
If you want, we can hold a special meeting at some point in the next month and a half to discuss just that one item.
Okay.
And get input from the community on places they would like to see it. If there was one where they would like to see a single one, if there was going to be two, where would they like the two-sided? How would they like them to look, and things like to that effect.
Okay.
And then we can give you that feedback.
Okay. And I think my obligation would be to let you know what the rules are.
Yep. Just let me
Okay.
know in which areas they can go. Just give me a
Okay.
minute. Bob, you had something?
Yeah, I just, I don't know whether you caught the online, but I had a couple of comments. I heard nothing here, okay? And let me first of all say that I'll admit that PointNet should have been operating faster. We've tried our best. We have much limited funds. We are not the incumbent provider. But what I've heard here is truly unprofessional. It's truly empty. And it puts us in the same spot we were in 2019. I think I still have the All Point Bulletin articles where all those happy people from Whidbey Telecom came up with their ancient technology and promised that we would have something maybe by 2024 or 2025. From what I've heard today, we are not one step closer from getting that satisfaction from Whidbey Telecom. They're technology agnostics. When the rest of the telephone industry embraced wireless, Whidbey Telecom sat on their hands. They could have had a solution here years ago. I know, because I made them a proposal in which they never even had the courtesy to respond to. So when you start looking around for how did this happen in Point Roberts? Was it the Canadians that cut off our power? And there's so much misinformation here. The fact of the matter is, and this is pure fact, factual basis, as the lawyer would say when he stands up in front of the judge and says, factual basis, Your Honor, the fiber through Point Roberts connects to Seattle and Vancouver. The fact that Whidbey chose or didn't know any better than to connect through Vancouver is their own problem. We're here because of a problem that Whidbey Telecom caused. They didn't keep up with the technology. They've been the incumbent provider here since they took over from BC Tel. Gosh, I don't know when. Was that the 1980s? I don't have that information at my fingertips. But we're no closer to getting decent internet here. And certainly the Whatcom County PUD has shown in their studies that what we have here is not quite to the level of third world, but it's pretty close. If I were a Whidbey customer here on the golf course, I can't do a Zoom call, period. That's the same result that I had back in 2019. I can get almost a couple of megabits down and I get hundreds of kilobits up. Oh, sorry, Zoom won't work at that level of service. But Whidbey's pleased to sell it to me. This is 2023. It's almost, if the rest of the community was doing the same thing, we'd all be driving cars from the 40s and the 50s, just so that we can keep pace with our telecom and our internet connectivity. This is a dying community. We lost 200 people since in the 2020 census. We're down to 1,100 people. People can't do remote work. They can't do, distance learning. And I would be pleased to introduce to you the doctors that will tell you that telemedicine is a problem here in Point Roberts. Oh, you want to monitor your pacemaker? Oh, sorry, that doesn't really work here. This is disgusting. This is a failure. This is a failure of the telecom industry, which I'm a proud member of, and I'll accept some responsibility for this. But we've heard nothing from Whidbey Telecom about any specifics. And let me remind everybody that I made a generous offer to solve their problem where they ran into those human remains. We have the only pole rights in Point Roberts. I offered to provide them with circuits overhead, not affected by any middens, which would allow them to bring service to the residents of Point Roberts today, not tomorrow, not next month, and not next year. And who knows when Whidbey will get around to it. They may make really good progress on their original promise of getting us service by 24, 25, or 26, if there's still a community here at that point. And I say that because, the electric vehicles and the market penetration of electric vehicles may suddenly result in us closing down our gas stations because Canadians no longer have to come into Point Roberts to buy cheap gas. We may end up as an isolated cottage community, nothing else, with no upside. The future looks grim when you have no support from the people that are supposed to be providing us with interconnectivity. Everybody says, pursue a technology, a course of technology that will serve your community well. Well, I wonder how many people have failed to move to Point Roberts because they couldn't support an at-home business or couldn't support a business with decent internet connectivity. That's all I have to say. The future looks grim, especially if we rely on Whidbey Telecom. And I'm sorry for being so blunt, but you know what? It's time for somebody to be blunt. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I do understand your frustration, Bob, and such. I work for a business. One of the business I do work for is a company here in Point Roberts, only has 10.1. We pay for larger than that because 10.1's not offered. We had to actually go and do satellite because the company can't run the proper POS system. It required, we actually had to fork out and buy satellite because we cannot get good enough internet through Whidbey. So I understand why, there's some frustration there. Anyone else?
I'd like to point out to Bob that it is an insult to third world countries to say that their internet is slow, because in Uzbekistan, where I recently returned from, it was 5 times faster than it is here. The other question that I have for the Community Advisory Committee is, why do we need to install trailers? Like, why is that a thing? Aren't there places like the library where we could put in?
It's part of their grant that when you receive the grant funding, is to install a community free access Wi-Fi trailer. That's just part of the grant. That has to be with the USDA.
It has to be a location.
It has to be a location with computers and stuff. It's supposed to be.
Does it have to be a trailer or does it have to be a location?
I don't think we know that, do we?
I don't know. Verify
What was the question, Alex?
Does it have to be a trailer or
No,
does
it does not.
have to be a location? So like, could it be
The key requirement is it has to be in the grant area.
It has to be in the grant area. Okay.
That's the big problem.
Okay. The current grant area is that they're talking about is the one that encompasses Lighthouse Park, part of Marine Drive, Edwards Drive to, no, it doesn't actually go all the way to South Beach. It only goes to like the marina.
Oh, so basically all of the out of towner like waterfront mansions that are mostly vacant. And like as a park.
Yes. It's that little,
Well, they'll
little-
get fast into that.
it's that
That's
edge.
like they have in their condos in downtown Vancouver.
Anyone else?
I think I know Alice, I did comment on that probably a year or so ago. The reason the areas were selected is because of the grant requirements that the area had to be below 10/1. Therefore, we picked the greatest area with the poorest coverage. Now new grants today are 100/20. So in the last 3.5 years, that's how much things have changed on the grant cycle.
Well, and I will talk to you, John, maybe we can have a Zoom, as I told you, because I deal with, archaeological on a regular basis.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Point Roberts is the largest archaeological midden in the entirety of Washington state. So I can understand part of what Bob was saying about needing to look to overhead, because there are certain areas, which is the majority of Point Roberts, which are going to be issue, but I will talk to you about that separately.
Okay.
If I can help you out with that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Yay, broadband. Thank you so much, John, for coming today. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you much.
At large membership, I need to get the video posted so that we can get people voting. So that is my bad. That's my update. Tree retention ordinance. Everybody wants to talk about.
Did you miss one?
No, you weren't here. We voted to move them because we had too many things on this meeting.
Oh, okay.
So the tree ordinance, we're going to go into here. 2072, which is the Point Roberts Overlay District, states under tree canopy retention, a permit required for removal of trees. No person shall remove directly or indirectly any tree canopy on any property within the Point Roberts sub-area without first obtaining a tree removal permit unless the activity is exempted below. The only exemption is pruning and maintenance of trees up to 25% of the existing tree canopy. Anything over that, anything over trimming or pruning 25% of a canopy requires a permit. The removal of any one single tree requires a permit. A single tree permit is $25. If you are doing a property and you're going to be clearing sections of it, you need a full fill and grade permit, in which you then have to follow the rules, which are listed below that, which are lots less than 1/2 acre may remove 100% of the existing tree canopy on site, provided that 30% of the pre-existing tree canopy shall be replanted. But that's part of the permit. It has to be approved through PDS. Lots greater than or equal to 1/2 acre shall retain 30% of the existing tree canopy on the lot. Period. Lots that are greater than 1 acre, no more than 50% of the existing tree canopy shall be removed. All three of those do require a permit through PDS. They require a full land disturbance permit, as well as you had mentioned bringing in soil. The rule for that is 50 cubic yards going in or out of a property requires a permit. Just to put that into context for you, that is 4 to 5 dump truck loads. Anything more than that, anything over 5 dump truck loads requires a permit going in or out of a property. I verified this I actually went through the code with Annette, who is Whatcom County Code Enforcement, to understand her interpretation of the code. And that is the code. No tree can be removed without a permit. Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
question for you. Considering we were just talking about Whitby and their issues with cultural resources, if or when, depending on where you are, that tree removal disturbs a cultural resource, does that trigger, do you know if that triggers automatically a cultural resource review?
If you cut down a tree and you're leaving the stump, that does not trigger a cultural review. You cannot dig up the stump.
Right.
You cannot dig it up. You can't use a grinder, anything in an archaeological area. You can cut the tree and leave the stump. It's archaeological is ground disturbance.
What about the enforcement of these requirements?
Good question, Karen.
That's calling.
Yeah.
It's called, if your neighbor does, so if you see if somebody has, they should have a permit. If they don't have a permit, they're not willing to show you the permit, you can call Whatcom County PDS. You can give the address, the parcel number, they can look up and see if there's a permit.
So there is no enforcement of these rules.
Well, there is, because there are fines, fees, penalties if somebody does do something, but we're not gonna have Whatcom County PDS staff driving up and down every single road in Point Roberts every day looking to see if somebody's taking a tree down. That's not realistic. What we need to do, and what I'm working on, because I deal with cultural resources, because they want to come up from Olympia and talk about our archaeological. I'm also working with Sat Paul's office with Jed Holmes to get the PDS staff up here to also be part of that in talking about wetlands and tree retention and doing hopefully more than one, hopefully multiple town halls explaining to people what the rules and regulations are and that you need to follow them. And even if we can get some brochures so that we can be posting on, Whatcom County Health Department does it all the time. They post on Nextdoor, the do's and don'ts, you know, what you can and cannot do. They tell you about, you know, hey, is it time to get your septic checked? You know, things like that. They talk about water, they talk about, you know, that kind of thing. I want PDS, Department of Natural Resources, to do the same thing. You know, post it up there, you know, did you know you need a permit for this? People who are gonna do something bad are gonna do something bad if that is just in their nature. I pull permits. There's a lot of good people around here. I pull permits. That's what I do. And I am pulling permits for people all of the time. I'm like, and they're ones that are not fun. They're archaeological, they're wetlands, you know, and people are like, really? But they're doing it and they're doing the right thing. I'm doing one where we're bringing in a whole bunch of soil and he's like, I gotta take out one tree. And he went and he measured that tree to give me, you know, that it was only a 12-inch fir. You know, we weren't talking about a big round tree. And he made sure he put it down on my plot plan that he had to take out this one little tree so that we could make sure that we were 100% on everything we were submitting. Some people aren't gonna do it.
So,
Yes.
I think the question would be for you. Yes. So you've witnessed this guy doing this stuff, right? Is he
Doing what?
Trimming the trees.
trimming trees?
Oh, yes.
Or intention, whatever his intention is, right?
No, he's actually chopped.
Are they already cut down?
Yes.
Oh, so they're, okay,
Well, they're not cut down, they're cut in half, more or less.
right. So the thing is,
These are road canopy.
he removed it. My thing is, I guess my point to you would be, I'd call up on that property, whether it's done or not, and find out if there was a permit for that. And if there, what I think, did I hear you correctly about topping trees that it can't be more than 25%.
25% of a tree.
So if they did 50%, I would go and call and just say, hey, listen, this is going on property next door, whether it's within the property line or not, and say, is there a permit on this property? Because he's also, if I heard correctly, dumping fill.
Yes.
And that fill, I don't know how many dump truck loads he has, but I'm assuming that if there's a certain amount, because I know where the property is. I drive by it all the time when I come up to the house. I live up on Washington. So I've come down Cliff many, many times. So that's what I would do, is pick up the phone, because I know how it slopes down in the back. I
And
know
call which department specifically? Permit.
the permitting department and say, here is the property. I live here. Here is the property that's doing this work. The following has happened. It appears that he cut at least 50% or more of topping his trees. He's bringing fill in. I don't know how many dump truck fulls of fill he's done, or cubic, it's by cubic yards, right?
Yes.
So you don't know how many cubic yards he's brought in. What's a dump truck? 11, what is it, 11? What is it? What's a
That's
dump?
why I said it's, so a dump truck is, depending on how you load it, it's approximately on average 10 yards.
Okay,
10
so
cubic yards.
the old
So
thing,
five.
like cement, you get the whole 10 yards. All right? So that's what and you call and say, here's what happened. And you take a picture of it. And you send it to them. Say, hi, I want to send you a photograph. What's your email address? How can I get that photograph?
So what they will do is they will look up to see if there's a permit. If there's not a permit, they're gonna tell you to file a CVR, a
Okay?
citizens violation
Thank
report.
you.
Code violation.
So
Yeah.
when you look up this property, there's no thing that's visual to a person like myself looking up this person's property to see if there are permits.
No, you have to
There's
call
no way.
PDS.
Your
Okay.
best bet is to go to the people with the lanyards and the name tags around them. Okay, and you go to them and you send them things, because that's what they do every day. And they make sure they get it right and let you know, no, there is no permit, or yes, there, or thank you for the pictures. We're gonna look into it. Okay, and that's what you do. And that's how you do it. I'm from the old school is, look, you speed, I give you a ticket. You don't stop at a stop sign, you get a ticket. Oh, why did I get the ticket? You didn't stop at a stop sign. Somebody comes there and finds you, or whatever, stops the work because you don't have a permit. Or they've topped off trees at more than 50%. So there's rules, and you can point to it and say, that tree was topped off at 50%. It's supposed to be 1/4%. Okay, so, all right, and you use what you have available. And that's how you go at things. If somebody's not doing something correctly, if somebody is not following code, it's not healthy for anybody on the point. I don't care whether you're putting in a septic, whether you're putting in stem walls, whether you're dumping dirt. I don't care what you're doing. There's certain rules and regulations you follow. And if you're not doing that, somebody has to come to you and say, don't do that. Oh, by the way, here's a ticket for you. And that's how you do it. That's how you start. It's the old thing about, you know, when you want something to really start changing,
Yeah.
the word, yeah. The word gets out, you know.
Yeah, because Whatcom County lists a month later, you can look up single-family residential permits, you can look up mobile home permits. What else is on this list?
But I guess the point is, don't drive yourself crazy about this when you can have somebody that's their job in the morning.
Okay.
And they wake up and they answer the phone and say, hi, this is what's going on. And I want to report it. Where can I send you a picture? Okay, and that's how you do it.
And you may need to be a greasy wheel,
Yeah.
a squeaky wheel.
Yes, Kimberly?
We call it, like my mother used to call it, you'd be a nudge.
Nudge, yes.
Nudge, okay? Just be a nudge.
When they take down the trees, are they allowed to take the trees off the plant? Will Canada allow them to haul the trees off? I know a few years ago that answer was no, pre-COVID. Trees that.
I'm pretty sure the rule is still that they cannot go into Canada.
So if someone was told, oh, you can buy this property, cut down trees and make money off of it. I heard this from someone, I didn't hear directly from them, but, they bought a lot thinking that they could
Just harvest
harvest
lumber.
trees.
They
So
harvest,
FYI.
yeah,
there's
because some of those
some-
trees, if you look at them,
Oh, yeah.
those are $5 and $10 and $20,000 trees.
But you can't take them to points, so they're
No.
not gonna make any money.
There's just a lot of
So-
board.
That's why there used to be a sawmill in Point Roberts.
Yes, yes.
There are some
There's
gypsy,
still one.
there's still gypsy sawmills.
There's still one.
Yeah, I know too. Yeah.
So then the other question I have is contractors that are here, I don't mean necessarily like construction contractors,
No.
but the people that go and will push down these trees
Mhm.
and have their businesses and are doing this without permits,
Mhm.
what kind of hammer can be applied? I know when my husband had his contractor's license, if there was an issue, you contacted the contractors board and they got written up and they had to go in and, so I don't know if those kind of people are, licensed like that. And when the education comes,
Well, so that's part of, when I was speaking to the state, he wanted to make sure, this is for archaeological, that I invited all of the contractors, landscapers, all of them,
earth movers.
as well as all of the real estate.
Yes,
Okay.
all the variations, yeah.
So, because that was part of the issue is people hire someone thinking that they know what they're doing and they're following the rules and regulations, and then they may not be following the rules and regulations. Right? So, yeah.
Attending who didn't.
There's still a piece of-
Because they not want to attend.
But presently, to my understanding, that there is no enforcement on the part of the person who does the work. If we are not happy with these rules, then it's time for us as a community to gather and decide what we want instead and ask the county to change our tree retention rules. So that's another conversation, but yeah.
Although we do actually have the Lake Whatcom and Point Roberts
Yeah.
have the most stringent tree retention rules in the entirety of Whatcom County. It's not that they're not stringent enough.
Right, there's no financial burden of breaking the rule is not large enough to make people pay attention. So, or the other idea might be like, I know the sheriff is supposed to be doing life and safety and patrolling, but
No, totally two different animals.
I know they are, but we would need something or something like that because we can't wait for the county to come up, so. To stop us and say.
That's where it kind of comes down to, education, and the county to actually issue the fines.
Yes,
But then again, there is someone who I know who did a bunch of stuff on their property, and I'm like, you couldn't do that. You're gonna get in trouble. They are getting in trouble. They have more money than God. They don't care. They said, if I get fined $30,000 and I get to have what I wanted, I'll take the $30,000 fine. And that's when it comes down to, it doesn't matter. Some people are just gonna be that way, and it doesn't matter how many rules and regulations you throw at them. It doesn't matter. They're just gonna do it.
That goes with any kind of development. Any of the developers just budget into the cost of a development, the fines for breaking the rules.
Yeah.
So if we're not happy with that, then we need to garner our people as well as the rest of Washington State and start making some things, the third violation on the part of a developer, they go to jail, that's, well, third indicates intent, so at some point in time, we just need to let the powers that be know that we want it to be different and start Now, Washington State is a huge lumber industry state. So we would have huge uphill battle. But the truth is that what we have in place is not being enforced.
But can I, Etienne, Zach here, can I just say that I think it does matter that there is a fine, and I think, I think because once that starts going, and if there is enforcement, of course, I do think the value actually will only go up, and I think at some point, perhaps we'll reach a point where these fines will be high enough that it might significantly change the attitude around this. So I don't agree that even if you have tons of money, you don't care. I think these things need to. Yeah, I think these things matter.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be fined. I'm saying that the county should. There will always be people who don't care.
Of course.
There are going to be those people who are, but then there'll be other people who start hearing that their neighbors are getting fined, and then will start following the rules because they themselves don't want to get fined.
But I think maybe as a community, how can we know if a permit is applied for or not? Like, is there some way to be something to be visually, like anywhere you go in Vancouver, you have the contract listed.
Mm-hmm.
It's conspicuously posted.
Yeah.
It's like licenses conspicuously posted.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't do it, you pick the phone up and you call and you ask, is there a permit? Now, there's so many other avenues that you can use. If someone has a license, like they're putting in furnaces, or they're doing plumbing or electrical, there's not that it isn't significant on other things, but it's significant that you end up killing somebody, oddly enough. So there's cases where this should be that a business license, especially if someone engages. I'm a plumber, I do something incorrectly, and I know I'm doing it incorrectly. Somebody that has a license to operate and they're cutting trees down, you take the license away. It's real simple. This is a real simple thing, but you then can't have interference and so on and so forth, where somebody says, oh, no, you do something wrong. I mean, that's the old school. You don't come in, cut down 100 trees. You make a ton of money off of that, and the fine is nowhere near, pull their license. You can't ever cut a tree down for the next year and a half or 2 years, which is what should happen. And because I always believe there's some redemption. I'm sorry, that's the way life is. Some guys, it's like, okay, you figure it out, you come. But I'm just kind of laughing because in Jersey, we handle things different.
I'm with you, Bill.
All right, we take care of things, we have a conversation, doesn't happen again. Okay, just a conversation. All right.
Yes, Bennett.
Yeah, I have a real quick comment on this. Right now, it's the responsibility of people who see issues like the trees being cut down to go to the county and find out if there's, the people pull the permit. And that's the fastest way to get, as you were saying, the fastest way to find out if they're being legal or not. But one of the things I think you may want to look at in the future is getting the county to put the permits that have been pulled for tree cutting online, so people can search right away. And if they see that they've already pulled the permit, they don't have to go and go through the process of contacting them. And that would be pretty easy for the county to do, but it's something just to think about for an improvement to suggest to the county later on.
So Bennett, Whatcom County has been working on their technical upgrade, because every other county I know of, I can look up permits online. You can do it with the health department, but you can't do it with PDS. PDS has not yet upgraded their system to be able to do it online.
And it's really important. Once they do that, it'll make life a lot easier.
Technology fee on every single permit you pull so that they can get it.
Yeah, and in the meantime, what we might do as citizens is have somebody take that task of calling and asking every single day or at the end of a week or whatever. You know, there's enough of us who are interested and concerned about this that perhaps we can share that job and.
Oh, that's not gonna happen.
Why?
I deal with PDS every day.
Yeah,
You wanna get hung up on?
well.
No, I'm just saying, right now with how short-staffed PDS is,
Yeah,
I have permits that are in process.
yeah,
And it can take me 2 to 3 days before somebody can actually get back to me.
okay,
If you were to call every week and say, I wanna know every permit that's been issued in Point Roberts for this week,
okay,
you are going to screw them over so bad, they're not gonna be able to do their job.
okay, well.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
it's bad.
I hear you, and.
I would go on a case-by-case basis.
And if they get that kind of pressure, then we might respond in some out of the box kind of way.
I have a question.
The gal from, code enforcement.
Suzanne,
showed up-
Annette.
Annette showed up at 7:15 a.m. on a Tuesday at the woman's house, knocking on the door, asking what was up.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what you should.
And
do.
luckily, we called on a Monday because they come up on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
So she
so,
said it this way.
so you figure out the schedule and that's what you do. So you work around that. You say, hey, listen, we're waiting for you.
PDS comes every Tuesday, health department comes every Thursday,
Yeah, so there you go.
in case anybody wanted to know. And electrical inspection from LNI is every Monday.
I have a question.
Oh, 1 second, Lee.
I already asked.
Okay, Lee, go ahead.
I have a question. Does the county have an ombudsman or is it just the state? Does anybody know out there?
And
That would be the person to call about non-enforcement.
They don't have one. There's not enough animal.
But currently, the most effective way to deal with PDS is for everybody to fill out a complaint form and not phone calls. Phone calls don't work. They don't take them. As Allison said, they'll hang up. They'll think we're crazy. It's overwhelming for them. But complaint, they are by law, you know, they have to go through those forms and they have to follow through on the
code violation reports can be filed anonymously. You have to sign your name, but you get to tick a box that says that you want it to be kept anonymous. So
I would just hate to file code complaints on a property that's actually in compliance.
So if you see activity on a lot, they're doing stuff, you just get the APN or the address and just send them a message and ask.
Or do what I do and
That's
walk up and go,
exactly-
can I see a copy of your permit?
That's exactly right. You asked. Yes, where's your permit?
And if they're like, we don't have one, I just do that, well, did you know that you need a fill and grade for this? And usually I get the, oh, we do? Sure, would you like me to give me your email address? I'll send you the form you need to fill out to send it in. And usually I haven't seen any work on that property again for a while.
Which guy?
The
neighbor.
owns the property that.
So,
He won't return my calls, and I don't feel good about going to his house and knocking on.
no,
Then just check
then
with
you don't have to do that. You pick the phone up, you call the PDF people, PDF, did I say?
PDS,
PDS, you call them and say, here's the guy's property. Does he have a permit? And do that. And don't put yourself at risk.
Yeah.
I tell people that,
Find
go
the
knocking
right
on
switch.
people's doors like, you know, I got a problem with your trees. Yeah, okay,
it's down the hallway by the door.
all right? You don't put yourself at risk. Okay?
Whatcom County Planning and Development Services, phone number 360-778-5900.
One more time, 360-5900.
778-5900.
Know that number too well.
You want the health department? I actually got that on my phone.
Question for you guys. Are you able to encourage the county to push through any different signage requirement for the point versus anywhere else in rural Washington County.
We already do have a special ordinance for signage and point hours.
Again, it's about enforcement.
Well,
And
yeah,
all of that is online,
Yeah.
Robert.
Well, so some of the signs, like people will be like, oh, well, because the sign at the marketplace is actually taller than code. But that's because the sign at the marketplace was there before the code was written.
So no, that's not what I mean. Like when a development application happens, so city development, if you want to do something that's a permanent activity in the city,
Yeah.
you have to put up a sign. You have to post your permit application. There is time for a public comment period. And then that information goes into whether the permit should be issued.
Okay, so that happens in Point Roberts if it's a conditional use permit. So like I did a conditional use permit and I have to stick a sign up and it says, this is, you have till this date to contact and write your, I like it, I don't like it to the hearing examiner, even though we sent out a letter to everybody within 1,000 feet of every corner of the property. And then it actually gives the specific date and time of which it's going to go to the hearing examiner. And then anybody who wants to comment on it can go in front of the hearing examiner. Because I did one on Zoom where I did a zoning variance. And we did it via Zoom. Right, but we do have to put out a big board, we get them from the county. They're orange and it has all the information on it and they get.
Okay, well, nobody's really surprised about you when something happens because they have this, process where there has to be public notice, et cetera. And if you see something happening, they're immediately. I will point out a couple of things, like my experience living in Beijing is a lot of no punishment is just a suggestion and people don't follow suggestions very well. So there needs to be punishment. If the punishment is money, rich people can just do whatever they want. And there's a lot of money in the lower mid. So we can't really rely on fines unless they're very, very stiff to really work. There just has to be some consequence that's the pressure point really is who's doing the work. And you maybe shouldn't be allowed to work here if you are doing unpermitted work that's illegal.
Well, and so part of the problem that happens though, Bill, is if you get a tree company that comes up from the rest of Whatcom County, they don't know that Point Roberts has a special district with an overlay district, because they're thinking, if I'm in Blaine, I can go cut this tree down.
Right.
There's no rule against cutting this tree down.
Right, but I'm from the old thing about when in Rome do as the Romans do. So if you show up and I've asked you to go do X, Y, Z, and you don't, and you're representing that you are a licensed company and you don't do your homework, that's where I hold you responsible. I don't buy the excuse where I didn't know. I'm sorry, you should know because you're a licensed company. You've taken the time to come up here. You're going to do work on something. You have to know what the Romans do. Otherwise, don't show up here and say, yeah, let's go do that.
Well, yeah, where's the liability, right?
And that's the point. This is the whole point. And I get tired of the song and dance for people that say, oh, I didn't know. How the hell did you not know?
Well, it shouldn't matter whether you know or not.
I don't
Okay, wait,
It doesn't hold up in court anyway. Say, oh, I didn't know. Try that in court.
Yes, Lee?
wait a minute. Yeah, I probably have 3 or 4 different experiences here where I've reported the worker. And what happens is the worker lies. And then the county believes the contractor and not the person reporting. And it stops right there. So it's a little bit more serious than just what we think is right or wrong. Because there's just a lot of wrong things happening that we have no control over. And it's true. How do we get that control back to, preserve the point? How, I want to hear, because going and just talking at people just doesn't do it. It just is not doing it. And in my opinion, we need the state to take control, somebody that has some higher power here.
Well, because it's not a state law, it's a county ordinance.
It's a county ordinance, but
Only the
still-
county.
But still, I don't care if it's on the books. It's like saying, oh, we have something on the books, well, you're not supposed to go more than 40 miles an hour down Tyee. But I was doing 60. But I don't live here because I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you still get a ticket, have a nice day. So it's adjudication, really. And if somebody doesn't care to adjudicate the thing correctly, or somebody lies and they go, yeah, I buy into that, and they don't do their due diligence, you can't, those are cases that fall outside the bell-shaped curve. They're the ones that sit on the edges that say, oh, I didn't do what I was supposed to. But in the middle, if you have a rule and a regulation and somebody does something here on the point, then somebody has to stand up and say, that's wrong and here's what it costs. It's a simple.
I also would like to add to Lee is that you can look at there's some permits that are transparent online, and it says in bold letters, no burning, and there's fires going the whole time. I mean, it's blatantly not respected even at the Whatcom County.
And by the way, that's something you touched a nerve on that, because when it comes to fires on the point, especially this time of year, and you see that several of the forests on unimproved lots have not been cleared up correctly. True forestry, you just don't leave stuff, and you don't leave ignition sources. You don't leave ignition sources. So, and then when you have people burning, you want to burn the place down, go right ahead, especially this time of year. But if you see people burning, you turn them in.
Yeah, if you see people burning and it's a no burn time right now, you have to report them directly to the fire department. They will go out there right away and they will cite them. They'll put it out and they will cite them. So that is strongly enforced out here, but you have to report it.
Yeah, I wasn't even talking about when there is a no burn. I'm just talking about like during the winter. Yeah.
Transportation Benefit District update. I don't think we've heard anything new about.
We haven't. I'm gonna jump in and slap you down because I interrupted you.
No, jump in.
Okay. Either one.
I actually have to go run and grab this text, so can you do the Transportation Benefit District and affordable housing?
I jumped in.
You're in the pool.
You're in the pool.
The county executive stated in June, when they came up in the other room when we were working with them, that he was working with Alicia Rule to accomplish what we want. Now, I haven't heard anything, and I don't think anyone else has. Is that okay? Good or bad? But anyway, so nothing since the July meeting, which was this month. Sharon Shoemake mentioned the other day that she is on the State Transportation Committee. I suggest that we write a direct letter to her. This is a state law. We don't need the county telling us what to do, because it's a state law. It's a state issue. It has, so whether St. Paul's done anything, I mean, if Alicia wants to help us out, that would be fabulous.
But you go to the horse.
Yeah, well, yes, metaphorically speaking, absolutely. So what I'd like to propose is that I draft a letter for the chair signature that to Sharon that says everything we want, and I mean that's where this needs to go. It's a state law. It's not a county law.
The county controls the money.
The county, the money goes, yes, the money goes to the county. How, and very good of you to point that out. Nonetheless, we've had mixed messages from the county over the years. We've had a county council, being the attorney, county council said at the first, a prior one saying, no worries, yeah, you can do what you want to do. Whereas the present one is taking a pejorative view. Very good, yeah, I love that word. It's not just pejorative. I worked government forever, and I'm not going to put you all to sleep telling you all this stuff I've done. But the bottom line for government is, you say no, you have to do nothing, file one piece of paper.
Move it
No,
to an agent of
you
paper.
say yes, you've got to fill out 100 pieces of paper, and it's
Exactly.
gonna take you a week or two or months or whatever. And then you've got to get your bosses all the way up to say, and that includes the council and all that. So I believe at this point, our best, at least, you know,
Right.
maybe it'll come back to us, yeah, let's go to the state.
It's like going ask for a kiss, okay? So we'll figure that it's a metaphor again.
Well, no, I
So,
hear this.
Too less metaphor.
I'm sorry.
It's 8:30.
I know, but it's a metaphor. So you want to do
A motion, yeah. So moved,
I'll second that,
okay.
okay? So go. You're a very good letter writer too.
Thank you so much.
No, you write
I'll
very
hear
good.
it.
letter.
I'll
Are
hear
we
it.
talking about like the taxi type services?
No,
No, what we're talking about is there's money that's collected.
on every single gallon of gas that's sold.
Yeah, and it sits there in a fund that we can't use because of the way the state law is written. It says it can only be used for grading and paving, no planning, no thinking, nothing else.
Just show up with a guitar and paper.
Yeah, and so that's not working for us. That's not what we need here. We need a wider scope of services that would be allowed under the state law. I've proposed a couple things to a state agency, and of course they haven't responded. But anyway, so that's
Go through her.
okay.
Let's go through, she's offered.
Yeah, I
She's
understand.
offered, so let's go through it.
Right, okay, should we wait till our chair comes back? or-
No, you've got a.
Okay, excuse me,
Yeah.
that's right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, no, that's you're supposed to do that.
What was the motion?
The motion is to write a letter to the,
What's the wording of the motion?
And to write, that's what he's about to say, yeah.
the wording of the motion is to request from our state senator Sharon Shoemaker that she advance our request for a modification to the existing transportation benefit district ordinance.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's in, to talking to the funds that are sitting there, you know, getting mulled on, okay? So we could use them.
Okay,
The next thing on our, you're the vice chair.
See, you're a super authority, this legislative.
Okay, great.
You're sweeping all over
The
the.
next thing on our agenda is affordable housing. And basically, I just wanted to note the correspondence. I had contacted both the Whatcom County Housing Authority as well as the Bellingham Whatcom County Housing Authority, both of which said, no, we're not doing anything at Point Roberts. We don't plan on doing anything at Point Roberts. And you might have some great ideas, but we don't know what those are. And I asked them, similar to the Canadian rules that require vacant houses to have a 2%, tax or whatever. Of course, we would not do a tax under our laws, it would be a fee. Anyway, if they had thought about doing anything like that anywhere, and their answer was no. Basically, the answers were
no.
no, they're not doing anything, and they're not planning on doing anything. That's my update on affordable housing as regards the county agencies. Do we have any new business?
But outside of working with the state agency or the county agencies, how about anything outside of that? Say, contacting a place like Portland, Oregon, who is working on an interesting affordable housing solution, especially for the homeless population. Wait. And then also, there's, I think, some new housing they're doing for seniors, people like my age. And I think, I'm trying to remember the name of the city, Madison or someplace, I'll have to go look it up. But yeah, again, in looking at these, and I've gone online and looked at the houses and looked at the solutions and stuff, especially the Portland, Oregon solution, which I know.
Well, we don't even have to go to Portland. because Lopez Island has developed a tiny house community, and they somehow or another, they were granted the property, and then they got grants, and they moved ahead with it.
But isn't it true though with Lopez Island that they enjoy something that we don't have here, which is the fact that they have large, I would say donors?
No.
Well, then
They
where did the
got
money,
grants. They got
yeah,
property.
where did the
was-
property come from? So somebody gave them property.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that started out, because
Yeah.
that's the major expense is property. And I don't disagree with you, but they were fortunate. I mean, there's a lot of things on Lopez Island they do, especially even from the garbage perspective, because they're given, or recycling, because they have this opportunity where people have provided large personal
Okay, yeah.
grants.
Okay, and now if you could look into Lopez, I'd be delighted to work with the city of Portland, since I used to work there among all the other places I've worked.
I'll talk to you afterwards, because I was watching this as a function of, they have a homeless population that's out of hand.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's out of hand where it's destroying the inner city, and it's really, the infrastructure's coming apart. And they've started to come up with these solutions, and they've applied rules to these areas and so on.
Mhm.
But it's turning out to be a solution that may be something.
Okay.
But it's the old story about, you can stand around and watch the house burn down and you go, let's look for a hydrant.
Okay, I'll look into that.
I will resend the email that I sent back in February to everybody about housing in Lopez Island.
Right, yeah, I remember it.
And to add to that point, the House Bill 1110, that was about allowing additional density on property to have low affordable housing units added to single family property. So the state law has already, I think, been signed in. This was an article from April. So there's that.
What is the
It said House Bill 1110.
1110?
And then the ADU bill is House Bill 1337.
And these are all still in the House?
This was back in April. The one said it was waiting for the governor's signature, and I believe I heard them say he already signed it. I want to say I heard this.
Yeah, it's to make it so that, permitting an ADU on your property is a lot easier.
And density. The other one is about density.
Yes, density. Yep.
Anyway.
So, and
there is a homeowner, property owner here who's talking to Sharon about doing that on her property on the.
well, and there's also the Whatcom County doing the proposed changes to Title 20 for the Airbnbs.
I was just gonna say, we're up to do business.
So there is that is being discussed in council, whether or not they want to implement that change to Title 20, which would make any Airbnb required to be registered with Whatcom County, ensure that they are following all of the fire rules for carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors, and that their listing follows in line with their available septic. And also there's rules like 24-hour person notification posted on the outside of the Airbnb so that neighbors have a contact person to call in case there's an issue, but also ensuring that those people who have the Airbnbs have a valid business license, are paying the hotel tax, income tax, and all of the other things that go along with that.
And to Point Roberts, that they are hiring locals to do the.
Well, yeah, you have to. So.
Have to differently.
Well, no, they actually have to list with Whatcom County who the person is, and it has to be a US citizen.
So
Well,
that's
the
what's.
problem. The problem is, even if they get taxed and everybody's legal, we don't get their taxes anyway here. That's where our focus should be.
The Chamber of Commerce has gotten some of the hotel tax in previous years, not during COVID, but that is something that they do apply for every year.
Good to hear.
Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce was applying for it every year. I know Louise Grubb got part of the money last year. She got that out of Whatcom County. I don't remember. I think it was like $10,000.
What did she do with it?
You'd have to check with the Chamber of Commerce. There was a list of things that they were going to do with it. I know they were going to do some signage. Part of it was for their website to update it for businesses and such. And I think there was supposed to be some pamphlets made, but yeah, you'd have to check with the Chamber of Commerce on what all they were going to be using that funding for.
Or to new business.
Anybody got anything new?
I'll strangle you.
I think we have enough old stuff. So anybody who wanted to email, you wanted to email John, do you need me to just give it to you?
Do you have my email?
I'm sure.
While you're looking that up, can I ask, with, kind of going with the TBD funds, but getting some signs made and put up in county right of ways for horse crossing? We have quite a few people who are on point sides just are on it. You ride horses and people don't always keep track of stuff, and that's, I'm sure, not overly expensive, but it would be nice.
Kimberly, do you think it will actually make a difference to put another sign up?
I think it would really help. I mean, granted, we should probably be wearing our cameras and stuff too, but it would be nice that people that are not locals and the part-time visitors are coming to visit grandma and grandpa and their bestie friends. They don't realize we are a rural community, that if we have some sort of signs, you know, a few around showing that there will be horses crossing or maybe deers popping out, like having even here's that tonight. Jared said, "Oh, I guess I'm not gonna pop across Coulter's." I thought it was free. So,
So that would be a suggestion
That'd be a
for
suggestion.
the TBD fund letter, is some signage for.
People look at the signs, they're too busy speeding to where they're going.
I have a tendency to agree with you, Karen, but hey, I'm all for giving it a try.
That might be something for the Chamber of Commerce to put a welcome sign up.
I have it as soon as you drive into the big sign that says 25 miles an hour, 30 max, in neighborhoods, 8 miles an hour, and look out for the horses, the old people, which includes me, the babies and the dogs and everybody else, and don't drive like a jerk. Okay, and that's what I have on the sign.
How about just have a sign that says don't drive like a jerk and put it down?
I know, I got to, it's like the old story about let's cut to the chase. But there's too many, I've seen it. I want to knock off the tailgating and the high beams, okay?
And the passing on double yellow line.
Oh, please, yeah. This guy in the big black truck, him and I are gonna have a conversation one day. You've got a big black. It's not me.
I did have a conversation.
I know which one I'm talking about.
Anything else?
no.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone.